Hello, everyone. Can you hear us? Oh, sweet.
I love the reactions.
So we will wait around 2 or 3 minutes, and because we have around 70 people registered. So meanwhile, it would be really amazing if you could please introduce yourself on the chat below here, and yeah, share anything about yourself, where you're joining from, and also what word comes to your mind when you think about super users. You can also add your LinkedIn so people can connect with you.
Yeah, I think we have a really international crowd here. I already saw, which is really great. Right?
Nice.
Nice. Hi, Nitin. Thank you for introducing yourself on the chat. Joining from Meppen in Germany. That sounds great. Ooh, and from the US. Yeah, so I said it's a really international crowd. Ooh, San Francisco. Hi, Jennifer. Really great to see all of you here. Ooh, someone from London. That's also great. Ooh, also from Bangladesh. Yeah, amazing. Nice. Cool. From Munich, from Colorado. Really, really cool. So great to have all of you here. Ah, yeah, champions. That's a term that's also often used. Nice. I think we can get started, right?
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. Welcome everyone to the Led by Community workshop. My name is Knavik and I'm an event manager here at the Led by Community. I hope you're feeling amazing right now and ready to observe all the community wisdom by our wonderful speaker, Luca, a community consultant and business coach. She previously worked in Camunda as a global community lead. Today, Luca will share with us 6-step framework for building a super user program. Some of you call it ambassador program, which is also correct. So yeah, I'm personally super excited about this workshop and will be listening and interacting together with all of you. And yeah, some of our house rules. We will move to the workshop part very shortly. Please write down all your questions that you have during the workshop on the chat below. After the workshop, we will have a Q&A session where Luca will be answering to all your tricky questions. And I really hope you will enjoy it. So thank you again for joining us today. And I will give the stage to Luca now. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm really excited for this workshop today because actually building super user programs is one of my favorite topics. So that's a great coincidence. I will share my presentation now and I hope you can all see it. Maybe you can give me a thumbs up. Yeah, I see reactions. I love these reactions. Nice. So this workshop is all about developing and growing a global super user program. And I'm really excited to see so many people here. Also that so many people join from all around the world. And yeah, maybe before we jump right in, let me quickly introduce myself. Knarik already said a few things about me. So I'm Luca, I'm based in Berlin, and I'm an independent community consultant and business coach. So I help companies and community leaders to create community strategies, ambassador programs. And yeah, I think my mission is really to empower others to do amazing things. And I think a lot of community leaders can relate to that. I have always been a community builder at heart, and I have always been passionate about building meaningful relationships and initiatives that empower others to thrive. And I think this is also why I'm so excited about Superuser programs, because this is really about rewarding and recognizing our super users, so the people who do a lot of work in our community. And as Knarik said, I've previously been with the software company Camunda, where I've also built and nurtured their global super user program. And today I really will try my best to put everything into this 45 1-hour-minute workshop and to give you all the knowledge I have. But of course, if you have questions afterwards, always feel free to reach out to me. And yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn and also send me all of your questions, or we can connect. I always love to chat to other community leaders. So what will we cover today? First of all, we will talk about super user program basics. So what a Superuser program is, why it's needed, and also I will share a few best practice examples. Then I will share a 6-step framework with you that I use to build global Superuser programs. And as Knarik said, at the end, there's time for questions. So of course, feel free to put your questions here in the chat. Knarik will collect them and then we will get to them. And of course, we want this to be as valuable as possible to all of you. So yeah, please bring your questions and then I can make sure to cover those at the end. So, super user program basics. So, what is a super user program actually? Since you're all community leaders, I'm sure you have some community members in your community that come to mind when you think about super passionate contributors. So, people who are really passionate about creating content or supporting other community members. So, there's always these people who are more active, who are more committed, and who are more collaborative than other community members. Of course, the others are equally important. But yeah, super user programs are really about identifying these extremely passionate users and about rewarding and recognizing them. And it's a really powerful extension to an existing community because there lies a lot of potential in our super users. And as Knarik said at the beginning, there are a lot of terms around, such as ambassador program, champion program, insider program, and they all refer basically to the same type of program. There might be nuanced differences, but usually it refers to the same type of program. There's one rule I wanted to share with you, or basically like a model. Some of you might know the Pareto principle. It's the 80-20 rule. And Carrie Melissa Jones outlined really nicely how this also applies to community building. So basically this means that usually 20% of our community members create 80% of the output or of the content. So usually 20% of our community members are really the ones who actively engage, participate, support other people. And then 4% of these 20% are usually the ones who are likely to emerge to leaders. And I think this is just such a great principle to show you, because it really shows what potential lies in super users and also why super user programs are so important, because usually there is a small amount, like the top percentage of our community members who create most of the content, and who are really collaborative, and I think like by really empowering these community members, there lies a lot of potential because they create so much output. There are, of course, a lot of benefits of super user programs, and I think there are 3 that I want to highlight again. So one of them is really that you have an enhanced support system. So by really nurturing your super users and by really empowering to do more amazing things in your community, you really support an enhanced support system. And this really makes people feel more welcome, more supported in your community. So this is definitely one of the benefits of super user programs. Then community engagement and loyalty. So of course, I think we all know this. We all want to be rewarded. We all want to feel appreciated, because I think something that we always have to see is that our community members put a lot of resources into our community. And they really want to feel appreciated. And once we really recognize them and show our appreciation, they feel more engaged and more loyal. And this is definitely another benefit of a super user program. And then one of the things that I feel is just so important is that you create a continuous feedback and improvement cycle. So we all need feedback to develop, and it's really important for companies to really receive feedback. And our super users are usually the ones who know the most about our products and who can give us really good feedback. So this is something I feel is extremely valuable about super user programs, that you can really get this feedback firsthand and that you can create this improvement cycle. There are actually a lot of super user programs. Maybe you could in the chat, if you have some in mind, either like a best practice example that you know of, or maybe you're even working on a super user program that you want to highlight, feel free to put it in the chat. Because I couldn't really choose, but like I now took 2 super user programs as a best practice example that I really like. Maybe you also have some in mind, then feel free to put them in the chat. One of them is definitely the Salesforce MVP program. I think the Salesforce community team is doing a great job in general, and they're really creating a program for their MVPs. That's actually another term for super user program, so an MVP program. And the people who are in this program really get early product access, opportunities to provide feedback, and also invites to exclusive events. I just saw that Nele, you mentioned the CNCF Ambassador and Java Champions. And then someone mentions the Google developer groups, which is also actually a really great example. Copado Champions, I need to check that out for sure. I don't know it yet. And then there's definitely another one I wanted to highlight, the Airbnb Superhost program. It's not a tech company, or it is, but like not in the, it's not like in the normal sense, like, and an Airbnb super user program, a superhost program, I think they're doing also a really great job in highlighting their superhosts, and they receive benefits and increased visibility and priority support. And I think they're also doing a really great job. I guess some of you know that program as well. So let's get started and to the 6-step framework that I use to develop super user programs. So this is an overview. Of course, we will get into detail into all of this, but I think it's always super important to have like an overview, and then we will check out all the different steps. So what I feel is always extremely important is that you're really clear about your problem context. So what is actually the problem you want to solve? And what are the goals? Because only if we have goals in place, then we can also measure success. So basically, the first step is really providing a program purpose. So it's really important to really know why does the program exist and how does it serve the members and the organization. Then it's really, really important that you get to know your super users better. So who are these people? Who do you want to see in your program? And what are they actually expected to do? So that's also a really important question. Then a third step is really creating benefits and rewards, so that you really check out what is on the other side and what do they get out of being active in the program. And then, of course, because we talk about global super user programs, it's really important to take it global and to think a little bit outside the box, because there are some considerations we just have to take that are really important when you build a global super user program. And then I think the fun begins, because then it's really about involving your members. I think this is really always one of the most important steps with actually every community program. And then it's about launching the program and testing, iterating. As I said, we will go into detail into all of these steps now, but I just wanted to give you an overview first, what we are going to cover. Something that I want to say is that what is super, super important, that super user programs require resources. So it's really important. I mentioned the Pareto principle. So when we consider that 20% of our community members usually create 80% of the output, I think it's also really important to realize that we also need to put resources into a super user program. So that is just really important at the beginning, just to clarify, and also to think about, okay, who is responsible for what, who on the team will take over which responsibilities. And I think that is just really important at the beginning. So let's go into the first step. Define the program purpose and specify goals. I think always at the core of every community strategy, but also every community program, there is a compelling program purpose. So it's really important to find out, why does this program exist and why does the world actually need it, or why does your organization need it? And this is basically the first step, that you have like the bigger vision, so the program purpose. And then it's really important to create specific goals, because without goals, we don't know what the direction is we are taking. Plus, only if we have really goals in place, we can define what are we going to do and what we also might not do. I think this is also really, really important. And also, it's really important to set goals, because without any goals, we cannot measure success. So we really need goals to say, okay, this has been successful, or maybe something hasn't been successful. But this is really important, to do at the beginning. So maybe some of you have some goals in mind for super user programs. I don't know if you are already working on a super user program. Maybe you could share something in the chat if you want. I have another slide with some example goals. But maybe there are some that you have in mind. I will just kick it off. Maybe you have something to add, because these are really just example goals. Because there are so many goals you could set for your program. And as I said, I think it's just really, really important that you have goals in place. And also something that is extremely important is that this can change. So as your super user program will grow, your goals might change, and that's totally fine. But right at the beginning, it's really important to know, why are we doing this and what do we want to see as a result? So it might be that you want to enhance product feedback. I've talked about that before. Or maybe you want to increase user engagement. Or a goal that is really common is also to encourage user-generated content. I think something that is super important is that you look at your goals and then translate that into behavior that your super users are going to basically do. Because if you have your goals and you translate it into action, then you see, okay, what is actually something that we want to get out of this program and what people actually should do. And of course, then it also makes sense to make it measurable. So what is the specific goal you want to see? Maybe how many pieces of user-generated content do you want to see? Of course, there are always things that are really easy to measure. So for example, at Camunda, we had some things also like content pieces, which we saw that they were coming in, and we used Common Room to track that. But then also there are some things that are maybe not as easily measurable, but they're also super, super important. So one of our main goals was also that people in the program feel really good about the program, and that they feel that they are more appreciated and they feel more seen. And I think this is something that is also important to see. So our goal was definitely that it's a transforming experience once they're in the program. And obviously that's not as easy to measure, but what we did is that we sent out regular feedback surveys to our champions to really find out how they're feeling about the program, if it helps them on their progression. Yeah, I think Chris also just shared something in the chat. Thank you so much. And yeah, that's really great, like member engagement to drive scalability. Thank you so much for offering that example. And as said, there are so many potential goals. I think it's just really important to see, okay, what is it for you? Then let's go to step number 2. So now it's really about the ideal program member. So you should define what makes a super user and what they will do. So when you want to find out what makes a super user, you can ask yourself questions like, for whom is the super user program built for? What's needed to become a super user? Or like, what kind of activities do you actually want them to execute? And something that is extremely important to find out is, how do you know if someone will be accepted or not? Because in an ideal scenario, you will get a lot of applications at some point. And then, of course, it's really important for you to know, okay, when is someone accepted or when are they not accepted? And yeah, this is also comes down often to what they will do. So for you to find out, what do you want your super users to actually do, and what makes them special? Do you want them to take maybe mentorship opportunities? Do you want them to contribute content? Do you want them to answer questions? Yeah, so just that you are clear for yourself what is actually behavior or activities that you want to see. I think this really, really helps you to find out more about your members and getting a clearer vision. There are possible criteria to select super users that Richard Millington actually identified. And yeah, this really resonated with me, because I think even before I read his book, this is basically what I used, but I think he made a really good job, or did a really good job and being really clear about it and articulating it. So the four criteria are level of participation, character traits, how much people want to join the program, and unique skills. Of course, you have to define unique skills. And I think I just talked about it. That you define the behavior that you want people to actually execute. But something I also want to share is that for me, I was really surprised how much of a difference it can also make when people really, really want to join a program. So sometimes you have these people in your community who might be in your community already longer, and they're really knowledgeable, and they are great contributors for the team. Some of them also might not even want to join your program. Actually, for us, it was also sometimes the case that people were actually doing all of the things, but they didn't really want to join a formal program because they felt it puts pressure on them. And I think that is also totally fine. But then we also had some people who were more like newbies to the community, and they were so excited about joining the program, and it made just such a difference. And we really tried our best to mentor them and to get them into the program, because it was always really, really nice. And they just, you could just really feel it in the group that they are so excited to be there. So definitely maybe think about opportunities for people who are also newer to the community to join, and also maybe what you can do. And this also goes nicely hand in hand with this slide, because I'm talking a lot about criteria and how we want people to be. But of course, we also need to consider it that it's really about people, and every person has really different strengths. And I think it's really important to consider diversity when building these kind of programs, because that makes us more innovative. And instead of expecting everyone to fit into a box, we really want to see, okay, how can we maybe encourage people to apply to the program from maybe people from underrepresented groups, or what can we actively do to get them into the program? Maybe it's mentorship, or sometimes it's also just really about asking people to join and encouraging them. Because something that I realized is that, especially for a lot of people in underrepresented groups, sometimes they don't even see themselves as super users, and they wouldn't really apply because they wouldn't see themselves as a super user. And when I, for example, reached out to community members saying like, hey, have you considered applying to this because you would be actually a really great fit? Some people said to me like, oh, I don't know, I never thought about it. I would never consider myself like a super user, or maybe a champion even, when there's such a loaded term. So I think this is just something to keep in mind, which I feel is super important. And something that Jono Bacon mentioned, and this resonated just so much with me, is you should be asking members to do things which benefit the community far more than they benefit you. I think this is just so important because usually when we work at a company, we think about, okay, how does this benefit us? How does this behavior benefit the company? And of course, I think there cannot be one without the other, because we need both. We need the benefits for the company, and we need the benefits for community members. But definitely it's with a community program, it's always about the members and that it benefits them. So I think this just really resonated with me, and I think it's really important to keep this in mind when building the program, and also when thinking about, okay, what do we ask people to do? Now we are already on step 3, which is actually a lot of fun, because it's about defining benefits and rewards for your super user program members. Of course, it's a really nice process to think about, like, okay, how can we actually reward people? What would they like? What do they want to see? And of course, it's also really important, to have rewards and benefits. It doesn't have to be, I mean, also I think maybe it shouldn't be money, but like it doesn't have to be swag, but like there needs to be like some kind of exchange. And there are basically 5 things where usually your rewards fall into. Usually it's access, status, influence, connection, and challenge. And so this basically means that access is something like, for example, access to exclusive events or access to people or opportunities. So I think this is something that is really, really common in super user programs. And it could be that it's about status. So it's really, for a lot of people, it's really about status and that they want to be seen, they want to accelerate their career. So that might be something really important. Or it might be also about connection. So really about a champion community, basically. Maybe you have some rewards in mind, because I will mention some examples. So maybe if you want to use the chat, and if you have maybe really great rewards in mind that you think of, then please feel free to put them in the chat, because of course we always like to get inspired. But sometimes actually, especially with rewards, it's often about we sometimes think that people want or need certain things, but usually it's something about something else. So I think really talking to people about what they would like to see is always super, super important. Possible rewards might be special swag, so something that makes them stand out. It might be visibility in terms of badges, for example, in your community tool, in the forum. Maybe also for the LinkedIn profile. We also put our champions on the website. So I think this is something that a lot of people also appreciate. Then it's always a lot about development, about learning new things. So access to training is a reward that a lot of people like. Really like the access to the super user community. I think this is something that a lot of people really appreciate. And for example, back in the days at Camunda, what we did there is we had like a certain champion summit. So once a year, everyone was virtually invited to really take part in the summit, where we also invited our CEO or our CTO, which was then basically special access to people. And we also had regular events with the champions so that they get to know each other. And that was actually always really nice, because we could see, like at the beginning, everyone was like a little shy, but then along the way, people were really like collaborating with each other, working on projects together. And I think this is just something that is really great. If you can do so, free event tickets is always a nice thing for people. But as I said, there are so many more rewards that you could think of. Yeah. And because this is about global super user programs, I think there are things that we really need to consider when building global super user programs. Basically the strategy is all the same, but we just need to think about additional things, such as cultural sensitivity and inclusivity. I think that is so important when building a global super user program, because we want people to join from different cultures, but obviously we also need to be sensitive to it, and we also need to accept it and honor it. And I think it's really important to basically set the ground rules, to be really open, and something experiences that I've made is also that it's always nice that when people share something, for example, from their culture or from their country. So, for example, we had always really dedicated champions from Brazil, and then they were telling us a lot about Brazil, and it made us feel more connected, which I always really enjoyed. But I think it's something we need to be sensitive about. And that it's inclusive, I think that is one of the most important things. And sometimes it can be the most difficult thing, because we cannot always please everyone when it comes to international communities, because it will always be the case that for someone it's in the middle of the night or really early in the morning, and that's really difficult. But definitely a lot of things we can do is really keep this in mind and really think outside the box. Do we want to do maybe the events to different times, or we always need to record them, or things like that. I think that is just really important. Also sharing notes to people after the meeting, so that they still feel included, even if they don't, or if they cannot join, because obviously we cannot always expect people to join in the middle of the night, or at least that's not what they should do. But I think there are a lot of things we can do. And also when we build global super user programs, it's really about scalability. So right from the start, we should keep that in mind to be able to scale the program and to really take it on a global level. And something actually that I've experienced, what was a challenge, which I didn't really expect before that it is a challenge, but like global recognition and rewards. So to be honest, sending a welcome box to everyone around the world was pretty difficult. So I would recommend it because it's nice. But on the other hand, I mean, if you're a really big company, then then sometimes you also have the option to send it from different locations. But if you are specifically in one country, then it's no fun to send it all around the world. So that's definitely a thing. But I think there are also like a lot of benefits that you can have that are not depending on the location. So for example, if you put someone on the website, or if you create badges, or if you have virtual events, then this is really not dependent on the location. And I think that is really important. So for us, it was really clear right from the start that all our events will be virtually, even though a lot of people actually ask for in-person events, and people really got like tickets to local events, which was always nice and which they appreciated. But because we had a global super user program, it was just really important for us to make it inclusive to everyone. And of course, if we host like an event in Berlin for people in India, it might not be really accessible. So I think there are just some decisions that you have to take right from the beginning to really make it accessible. But it's also a lot of fun, I think. Something maybe you should keep in mind is with some countries, we in the past there were like some restrictions. So maybe you should sit down with someone, I don't know, from the legal team, and to really think about it, if you can make it accessible to everyone in every country, what this means. So maybe these are just some considerations you should think about before actually launching the program. But as I said, I think it's just really nice to have global programs. And I mean, I know that there are also super user programs where they have so many super users that they actually have local communities, and then they can arrange it a little different. Of course, it really, really depends on the company size, on the community size. And there are a lot of options to do that. Yeah, I think I said it in the beginning. Step 5, I think, is one of the most important steps, I think, for every community program, to be honest, that you really get your members involved, or your ideal members involved. I think this is so, so important. yeah, when you did like your research and you kind of checked out like who are the people you want to see in the program and who, what kind of activities do you want them to execute, then you might already have a list of people where you know, okay, this would be actually an ideal member. Maybe you already have someone in mind. And then really getting them involved right from the start. So what I always do with community programs is I think about the basic strategy, so that I basically have a proposal and then I get community members involved. And I think that is so important that you really, I don't know, host a meeting with 4 to 5 community members that you really see in the program and you tell them about it. They will feel really appreciated and they feel special, which is also nice to really show them the recognition. And then really ask them like, hey, this is my idea. This is what I have planned and this is how it could look like. Would you join a program like this? What kind of rewards would you like to see? So I think that is super, super important. And even if you already built your program and you didn't do so in the beginning, I think it's never too late. You can definitely still host a session like that. And yeah, definitely be in touch with people. And I think something that is also super important is that people need to actively opt into the program. So it's really important that you don't just say, oh, you are so active and now you're part of the program, because yeah, people obviously want to actively opt in and they also want to have basically the decision to opt out, because for some people it might be also the case that yeah, they feel pressure to be in such a program, which is fine. No one has to be part of the program. Sometimes I think at the beginning it was also like that people said, oh no, they just want to see for now. And then later on they were like, oh, but now I really want to join the program because it seems actually really cool. So I think this is really just important that people really show their interest and actively opt in. And yeah, step 6. Now you're basically already in the launching phase. This was quick. No, but yeah, I think like the launching phase is always super exciting. But actually, like after the launch, I feel is really where the magic happens. So when you launch the program, it's really, really important that you know who is going to assess the applications, how are people expected to apply. So you might want to create like an internal committee. And they always feel it's really important to have like a diverse set of people being part of the committee if you will create a committee, because this will give you a lot of special insights and yeah, this will also make your super user group more diverse, I think. But yeah, this should be really, really clear. So how are you going to assess the applications? How are they going to apply? And who is going to do that? And then, of course, you launch the program, you promote it. I think also for the first round, it's always super fine to not have like, I don't know, 100 people joining, but maybe to start small. So maybe you even want to say, hey, the first batch and the first cohort is really like for a small amount of people. Because then this really gives you the opportunity to test, to iterate, to see what works and how people like it, and also to nurture the super users better that you have in the program. And I think I said it before, but really make sure to proactively reach out to people you think would be a great fit. Because yeah, I heard it so many times that people thought, okay, this is like actually the perfect person, but they didn't apply. And then when they were asked, they were like, okay, I never assumed that I would be a great fit for the program. So I think this is really, really important. And yeah, as I said, I think then after the launch, it's really where the real fun begins, because you really start to see what works, what doesn't work, and you can really test things. So I really want to encourage you to really test a lot of things and to really try something new, because it's totally fine to let go of things if they don't work. And I think that is just really important. Here are like three ways usually how you can recruit super users. So sometimes it's about direct outreach. So you might directly reach out to people and ask them to be part of the program. It might be the case that you have an application form and then people can just apply themselves. But also some super user programs, they have a nomination process. So people cannot even apply themselves, but they need to be nominated by another community member, which is also nice. I think there are definitely advantages to all of these options. But yeah, these are just like three options that you can go with. And I think you can just see what works best for your program. I think something that I've realized about like why it might be a nice idea to not do it via only direct outreach is that you will get to know way more community members when you have an open application form. Because I think if we only always focus on the ones that we know, it's also pretty subjective depending on the size of your community. So I think it's always nice to open it up to the broader community, because then also other people have the opportunity to join along the way. But yeah, I think this is really up to you and your community program. And yeah, as I said, don't be afraid to try out new ideas. You can let go of them if you want. But I think like a program, especially when you launch it, is so much about testing and iteration. And I think that's just such an important part of it. So yeah, as I said, I really want to encourage you to try new things and really get in touch with your community members and really build the program with them together, because it's all about them, about their needs. So really build the program with them and ask them what they need. So we are at the end of the workshop. So just to sum it up, as I said at the beginning, your super users are your greatest asset, and it's really worth investing in them. As I said, I think there lies so much potential in super user programs if you do it right. And yeah, I think it's just really, really important to identify and also recognize these people, because they do amazing work and we should really, show them our appreciation. And I think for every community program, actually, it's always really great to realize that people really want to be part of something greater than themselves. So it's really about like being part of a greater mission. And yeah, I think when we realize that, then we can really start to build something meaningful, a meaningful program. And this is also why it's so important to create a compelling purpose. And yeah, as I said, like a great strategy is like, I think it's important. But then it's really about like doing it and trying things out and iterating on what you have. And that will really equip you to thrive. And yeah, as I said, build it with your community members together, ask them for advice, make sure to meet their needs, and yeah, really put them into the focus of the program. And I think then it will be amazing. Yeah, so that was a quick run through this strategy, but I hope you took something out of it. Feel free to connect with me either via email. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me. I always love to hear from other community leaders and to find out where they are and what their challenges might be. So I'm always really happy to talk about it. And yeah, I hope you have some questions. So feel free to put them in the chat. And thank you so much for your time and for joining today.
Thank you, Luca. It was an amazing workshop. Thank you for sharing all your insights. It was really awesome. And one of the things that I'm taking from this workshop today myself, that I actually can create cohorts and I don't have to invite everyone at the same time, which is like amazing idea. I love it. Thank you so much. And yeah, if anyone has some questions, please feel free to write it down here on the chat, or either you can unmute yourself and talk to us more here. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really important point regarding the cohorts, because I think like really having cohorts will make it way easier for you, and being clear on like when are people actually allowed to join and how often will also really give you the opportunity to grow the program over time. And I think that is always really great.
Amazing. So I see we have a few questions. Shade is asking if you will be able to share the slides with us.
Yeah, how how does it work? Yeah, so we will definitely share the recording, I think, and the slides. Yeah, I of course I can share them as well. Yeah.
Awesome. And Nella is asking, from your perspective, what is the biggest challenge to setting up and maintaining a champion program?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good question about challenges. I think like there are a few regarding like first of all maybe identifying the people. I think it always depends on where you stand currently in your community journey. Maybe you know your community members really well, and then you have a great idea about who to engage into the program and who should participate. And then I think the start will be pretty easy, but maybe sometimes you are not even aware who is really like part of your community, and the best or in an ideal scenario you are, but still, and then really getting people engaged. And I think sometimes maybe a challenge might be also to be really clear on what you expect from champions, because I think this can be, yeah, sometimes maybe a little difficult if you are not even super sure about, okay, well, how do we want them to contribute? What should they do? So I think being really clear about it will make it easier for you also in the process, because maybe at the beginning you won't have like a ton of applications. Maybe you will, but then it's fine. But like at some point, the program will grow, and then you really need to say, okay, you are allowed to join and you are not allowed to join. And then you need to be super clear on your criteria you've set, because otherwise it will be basically, it could backfire. I think like if you're not clear about it and just like saying, okay, you cannot join the program, maybe it will discourage people. I think there are probably more challenges to it, I think, but these are basically two that come to mind.
Okay, thank you, Luca. And another question by Noor that is really actually similar to what I was thinking before as well. What is the best way to re-energize inactive community members?
Yeah, I think actually that's such an important point and question, because sometimes we just feel we have this program and then people are really not active, and you reach out to people and you don't know what's like happening, because obviously you don't see them on a daily basis, and then you really wonder what happened. And I think there it's so important to also have a clear offboarding process. So you shouldn't just know how to onboard people and when to onboard people, but you should also, in an ideal scenario, I think you have basically a time frame. So for example, after each year, people have to actively renew their status. So this again gives them the opportunity to opt in or opt out. And I think that is such an important part of a super user program, because otherwise, sometimes it's the case that we have so many inactive members who don't really want to be part of the program, but they're still there, and then we don't know what to do. So that's basically one of the things I would definitely recommend. And also, like, I think really connecting with people, asking them where they're at, because sometimes it might be also the case that people just have a lot going on. And then obviously, like, if someone has been always super active, then you can be kind to them and like, yeah, assure them that it's fine. But yeah, as I said, also this offboarding process, I think that is just super important to ensure that it's going well and that you have an active super user community in the long term.
Okay, we can move forward to question by Lena. She said that she loved the part about taking it global, as we haven't considered this when we were launching the first program. My
Mhm.
challenge will be to do this now afterwards, or to create a separate program. Do you have any tips about this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think actually it's often the case that we just go with the flow and then we launch something and then later we realize like, oh, maybe we should have done it a little differently. And I feel this is not too bad. There's always a solution. So I think some things you could do, either depending on where you stand with your community program, either you can introduce some things like on a small scale, or you could even like reintroduce the program. So do like a soft launch and maybe do the things again. So I think it's really about like thinking for yourself, like, okay, what is it what we need to change? How big of an impact is it for like the community members who are already part of the program, and maybe also for the company? And then see, like, either you just have to change some things on the website, on your program page, or maybe you really see like, okay, this is like a completely different like program now. And then I would just really get people on board who are already part of the program, because it's always really important to be like transparent, so that they don't feel like, okay, now they're making changes and I really don't know what this about, because obviously it's really about them. And then you can you can take it from there. But I think this is often the case, and it's not too bad. But yeah, we can also talk about it later on a little bit more. I'm happy to speak about it.
Nice. Thank you, Luca. So another question by Samantha. When you think about scalability for a super user program, do you have any tips or things to think about, with those groups tending to have a more high touch from a community manager? Scalability of a program is the key to build in from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think this is sometimes one of the more difficult things, because like, especially with community programs, we're so used to put like all of it in it. And then we are basically the only touch point, like two community members, and they're really, really dependent on us. And this is also like an experience I had like a lot of times, that we really realized like, okay, we have to actually make our community members a little bit more independent of us, because otherwise it isn't scalable. Because obviously, depending on how big your program is, you cannot always reach out to so many people individually. I mean, there were definitely some things like automating things is definitely key. So for example, we used Common Room as a tool, and at the beginning we did a lot of things like on our own, but then we just automated a lot of things, and that's, I think, super important also regarding the application process. Some messages, onboarding. So there are so many things that you can do, and I think it's just key, because otherwise it's really not scalable. And then I think something regarding scalability that I feel is also really important is really to show people that they can also take over an active role, and that they can help each other. So really maybe letting them take over responsibility, so that not everything is up to you as a community manager, but that you really see your super users as maybe an extended team. And I think that is really, really important for scalability. I guess there are a lot of other things I could mention, but I think these are the two things that come to mind for me.
Okay, thank you, Luca. So I think that's it with the questions, but maybe if someone else has more questions, please write down or unmute yourself and chat with us. So we're ready. We can wait for a minute, I think, and then we will wrap up.
Yes, thank you so much for these amazing questions. Really interesting to read where you are at.
Okay, we have one more question. Chris is asking, would you have any recommendations on activating internal stakeholders to engage in this type of programming?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think that's a really good question, because depending also on the company that you're in, I think, or in general, I think it always makes a lot of sense to activate internal stakeholders, because yeah, I think one of the things that is just so important is really like, I cannot emphasize it enough, but it's really like the program purpose and what do you want to achieve, and that you can also show what this program basically does. And I think if you have basically success stories from the program, then people might feel that it's more important, or they realize that it's more important. They not just feel it. And I think that is something really important to consider, that you always show the value of it. And this is also what I said at the beginning. This is also why it's so important to establish clear goals and then measure success, because you have to show to maybe upper management, to the company, that it is successful. And I think the more you show that, the more like intrinsic people will actually participate. But definitely what I did, for example, a lot is like getting people to join events. So for example, what I mentioned, we had this champion summit where people from different departments, they joined, and for example, they presented something about the roadmap. And I think you can also do that on a more like long-term basis, but I think there's always super important, what is your goal, what do you want to achieve, and then to see, okay, who's the right fit for it, and then basically pitch it to them and just show how important it is to them. And I think that is just really important.
Thank you, Luca. Yeah, I think we will wrap up the workshop. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was an amazing workshop. Thank you, Luca, too.
Thank you so much, Narek, for hosting it. And thank you all so much for coming and taking the time. So definitely feel free to reach out to us also after the workshop if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.